Carrie,
Yes, Chris.
thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
How did you get started connecting people together?
I think it's just something that from the time I was really little, I have very engaging parents. My mom is absolutely a connector, and she is I call her Snoopy McSnoopface sometimes because she's just really interested in other people. And I think I took that on from both of my parents about how gregarious they are and the like, and then it just kind of came naturally.
Tell me at what age you started to discover ways to monetize this skill of connecting people.
Oh, it was a little later in life. I think it was the first time I had a bit of an entrepreneurial vision. And I had left corporate and I decided that I was going to combine some passions together. I loved business and I loved cooking. So I started a personal chef service. I want to say it was probably back in 2002, 2003-ish or so. And I started formally business networking. And I discovered really easily that I was making referrals to other folks. I was making connections. And because of that, I started making money. They started making money. And it worked out really well.
Did you discover that something as sort of simple as cooking could be a really good connection tool for people?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you think about things that are just kind of core for everyone, we all like to eat, we all like to sleep, we all like to have fun. So if you have something that's a passion around any of those things, it's an automatic connector in my perspective.
I love it. Where did you grow up?
Oh, grew up in Southern California and absolutely loved it. Though living here in Philly, I think, while I was born in Southern California, Philly's home.
Why do you say Philly is home?
There's just something about this city, and if I may share a story of how I ended up here. So I was going through a divorce and reconnected with some friends of mine who I'd worked with I've known these guys for about 30 years or so, and we're a management consulting firm, and my first job as a consultant working full-time with them was out here in New Jersey. And I had came out here with just a few suitcases and ready to start a new life. Drove into Philly for my first time, and I'm on 676, ready to get off to go to the visitor center, go see the Liberty Bell and all the touristy stuff. And this is going to sound a little woo-woo, but the voice filled my car. And I wasn't even off the highway yet, and the voice said, "You will live here." And I was just looking at the skyline, and I thought, well, now, isn't that interesting? I'm pretty intuitive anyway, but this was the loudest hit I ever got. And within 6 months, I was living in the city, and I fell in love with it, like I said, before I even got out of the car. There is something, I think part of my DNA must have been here from way back. But the juxtaposition of everything here, old and new, kind of the gritty and the glamorous. I love the fact that I can pop in anywhere in the city and you just never know who you're going to be sitting next to. I find people, it's a little crazy because Philadelphians have there's a stigma or a perception, right? And I think it's totally wrong. I mean, I have found people here to be so incredibly warm and giving and caring, and people look you in the eye and say good morning when you're walking your dog on the street, and it doesn't matter who they are. And I found that very refreshing, and that's just a little part of why I love this city so much. It is ingrained in me now, and I think I am in it too.
Are you a traveler at heart?
Yes. Absolutely. I would say explorer and curiosity, which I think we're probably going to get into here in a little bit. But I think, the idea of going and exploring and seeing what's out there and kind of tasting the local flavor in all realms of what that means is really cool.
Tell me a little bit about your skills as a connector and how that helped you find success in your consulting career.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I think everything that I've done throughout my career has led me to the particular position that I have. So my official title is Vice President of Delivery Excellence for the company. And that really means that I make sure that we are delivering on our promise to our clients of delivering excellence in what we do. And that absolutely requires those skills of connection. And in fact, it's one of the core values of our company is connect the dots. And I think it's just so important to have that connectivity and be able to connect people, being able to hear the things folks aren't saying, to hear what the client's needs and wants are, and how we're matching up with what they need. And like I said, it's wonderful, and we have such a wonderful, diverse group of people in our company too. So it's fun to make connections with new folks as they join the company as well.
I have a question. How do you communicate to a client what they need, but they don't know they need it?
That is such an awesome question, Chris, because we deal with this all the time. And one of the things that I counsel our new consultants on is listen to what the client is saying, because that might be them telling you what they want, but it's not necessarily what they need. And so being able to take in what the client is saying and not parrot, but reflect that back to them and say, here's what I heard you say, and have you explored X or have you explored Y? And one of the pieces of language that I use is, in our experience with similar clients, this is what I hear them say, and ultimately this is what they need. And so having that conversation with them in that way helps them to open up their perspective just a little bit and maybe think outside the box for themselves. So, and it's part art, it's part science, and it's not the easy answer, right? And this is where I think it's a differentiator for our company, is that we do listen and care, and that we're willing to kind of push a little bit without some firms will go in and they'll just say, no, this is what you need and you will do it this way. And that's just not how we operate. And it's wonderful, because that's how I operate as an individual too.
It's almost like every business owner is a therapist.
We say that all the time, that we are, so we herd cats beautifully. We are our clients' therapists. I actually had a client once tell me, she said, you're our therapist, and we're going to just get an office here in this office building, and people are just going to have to sign up. So I thought that was pretty funny.
I think the biggest thing I've learned about listening to people in the past year is assume nothing.
Yes, absolutely.
How is it with this gift you have of connecting the dots, connecting people? How do you not connect conclusions?
I think that's really important, and that gets to being empathetic with folks and trying to recognize and not instantly jump to what I think they're going to say next. Really just kind of letting it go and just sit and sitting within what they're experiencing. And the curiosity is really important too. And, being willing to ask the questions and, tell me a little more about that. Or, hey, you said this earlier. Well, how does that really apply to what's happening within the company right now? And being curious is absolutely vital to the ability to do that and to reflect back and to, show that empathy and really connect with people.
Are there any tricks or tips that you use to stay really present with a person when you're listening to them?
Oh, that's a great question too. I think, so many things are situational. I know for me that if I'm kind of comfortable in my own skin at the time, it's a little easier. I think being mindful of the time that you have with someone too, and being willing not to rush to a solution or rush to a conclusion. It may take 2 30-minute sessions with someone, right? It may take a little longer, but being willing to kind of go with it and be patient is really important. And I think when you kind of combine that curiosity and when you are being open to also having your own mind changed, right? That you may have gone into a conversation with a preconceived notion, but through your own curiosity and communication, being able to just go, oh, hey, I didn't think of that either. Let's explore this together.
That's so cool. I've heard curiosity a lot lately, and I hadn't heard somebody say make that connection to a willingness to learn and say, I could have something to grow in.
Absolutely. I think curiosity is just super key. It helps you to not be stagnant, right? If you're constantly willing to learn and having that learning mentality throughout your life, being a life learner is just so important, because let's face it, we don't know everything. So, and being curious about the other person to make that communication is really important, and that connection. You had asked earlier about communication. I heard this phrase once, and I'm going to not say it correctly, but it's something about the fallacy of communication is that it actually happened, right? And so that is the other thing too, is just, it's not you speaking, right? It's how is the other person interpreting and coming back, and are you checking for that engagement and understanding? That's when communication is happening, not when it's just pushed one way.
How do you communicate to your clients the importance of them also slowing down and maybe not rushing to a conclusion or a fix, but willing to go through those growing pains of building a relationship with you first so that you can help them understand what they need?
I think that comes down to the trustworthiness and building trust and credibility. And I think that comes through consistency. So when you are dealing with that client, you may have an implied trust that's there because the company has hired you to come in to help them, but you still have to build that credibility with them. In fact, at our leadership team, we were just talking about this the other day, and how do we help our more junior consultants build that credibility? And so much of that is consistency, and it comes with, is the consultant willing to engage? Are they asking the questions? Are they being curious? And are they following through with what they say they're going to be doing? Are they providing good quality deliverables? Are they providing value? And over time, that trust gets built, and that credibility is there. And the more consistent you are in your approach as a human, first and foremost, and then in how you do your work, that absolutely builds that credibility, and so that the client sees, oh yes, I can trust you. You are my trusted advisor.
When you're caring for a client, do you ever find yourself helping them bridge connections into the real world? Like you say, hey, it's a florist company. You need to meet this person, and you help connect them with other relationships, or is it just advice?
Most of the time it is. Sometimes it's even connections within their own companies. We deal with some very large global companies, and sometimes those teams are siloed. And so we also will do a great job of saying, hey, there's someone over here in this group over here doing something very similar. Why don't we get together and, chat and see if there's some similarity here, and what can you learn from them, and vice versa. So it's all about connection.
I work in an industry that you can find a lot of people who hoard connections. They don't want to give away who their personal connections are, because they want to keep them to themselves. I just read a book called The 𝐏𝐲𝐬𝐜, which is it's all about just giving within reason. But tell me a little bit about the power of giving business or relationships, or even business, to colleagues or clients that you could maybe potentially hoard for yourself.
I love that. And I say this a lot. There is enough to go around for everyone. I read this book many years ago called The Soul of Money, and it was by a woman named Lynn Twist. And it's a fantastic book, and she opens with the premise of, what if we all just started believing there's enough? There's enough of everything in the world. There is enough money already here. There is enough love. There are enough resources. There's actually enough. And if we started embracing that, there's then more comes from that. We either turn down business, or we refer to others where we don't have the capacity to help in a certain way. And that comes back, multifold to us. And it is that there's enough, right? So why hoard? There's enough.
That's so cool.
Just don't know if I can say it any better.
They print more of it every day.
Yes. True. Different subject.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, is this abundance mindset that you have, obviously it's something that's great for you and has been successful for you to help build positive relationships that are positive. When you have a client that comes in and they're just like so down, like nothing's been going right for the past 18 months, how do you communicate? How do you care for them to get them out of that, maybe a toxic mindset? How do you get them out of that rut?
And that's a tough one because we've all been there either in our personal life or business. And I think getting back to the empathy side, we don't know if it's just because of business situations that, they're in that funk or it's a personal thing. And so having that balance to just kind of be curious and explore what the underlying reason is, right? Without getting too personal with them, it is helpful. I use humor. I love finding something that is funny to the other person and trying to break them out of that. Or, I'm a big believer in chunking things up, right? What's the phrase about you don't eat an elephant all at once, right? It's just a bite at a time. So whatever the big hairy thing is, that's out there, just what can we do to just start chipping away? What's the 1 degree shift that we can make that is just going to put you on the path of things starting to look better? And that could be any number of things. It could be, a goal that they're working on, or they're just not seeing progress, in working with their staff, or something is going on. It's like, okay, well, what's the very first little milestone we can get to that would make you feel that we're finally making progress, right? And let's focus on that first. And sometimes that will help, And I think, getting people out of the rut. We, in our company, we have this program called a relationship development program, and it's all about just finding out about other people, what's going on. And maybe it's hey, let's shift. Tell me what your grandkids are up to, right? Or I love sports too, and certainly out in this area, it's like, hey, let's break down the Eagles game from last weekend or whatever it is. And sometimes that helps just shake things up a little bit too. It's there's never a one-size-fits-all for anyone, and I think that's where all of the things that we've talked about really come into play, that when you know the person, when you've built that relationship, when you've built that trust, and you're curious with them, you're going to find the secret sauce for each individual.
Here's a question. If it doesn't lead anywhere, we can pivot, but tell me a little bit. We talked about boundaries. You're setting boundaries with some people in your life.
Yes.
Tell me about setting boundaries with clients as you're having these conversations about personal life, maybe creeping into business life.
Yeah, I think boundaries, the best way that they were ever described to me is it really helps people understand what's appropriate and not appropriate in their relationship with you. And I think on the client side, there's so many different nuances. I've always been really good about, communicating, hey, if anything is going wrong, please feel free to contact me, but just know that I might not get back to you if it's on the weekend, right? If it's urgent, please let me know. I have some clients who, obviously they're, I would say they get the free pass, right? It depends on the situation. It depends on the project we're working on. And I'm very respectful of others' boundaries as well. It's a two-way street. And I think, setting them and also knowing when to, it's not relaxing the boundaries, but there's situational things that come up, right? And as long as someone encroaching on your boundaries is not becoming a habit, and that's part of setting the boundaries, you also have to respect them for yourself too, because the more you relax them or the more you let people encroach on them, then all of a sudden, what good is it having a boundary, right? It's like a wall you build that has holes in it everywhere. At some point, it's just not a wall anymore. So, and it is a fine balance, but I think it's important to lay those out and just say, hey, and it could be anything from Monday nights are my kids' softball games, right? And so I need to leave the office, or it's really difficult for me to have meetings at, say, 5:30 on a Monday night, right? Can we shift things around? Knowing that, many times our clients have those same, issues. It's like, okay, and they may say, okay, I'll trade you, Monday night for Tuesday night because my kid's got something on Wednesday. So I think it's really, it's just important to set, keep, communicate them, right? And it doesn't mean that you're rigid and, and unwilling to bend where needed. It just means you're setting yourself up for some success.
How important is the first 5 minutes in a relationship?
Oh, so critical in every way possible. How you approach someone, what your body language is, your facial expression, it's just so important. Are you smiling when you meet someone? Are you, have you just come out of a really, really bad meeting and your face is angry or sad? And the other person really doesn't know. So it is incredibly, incredibly important. And finding something to make a connection with someone early on is really important. And it may not be 5 seconds, but, certainly 5 minutes. You should find something that connects you.
How often do you find yourself traveling to meet in person with your clients?
Not so much anymore. My particular job changed just before COVID, so I'm doing much more, internal, helping to run the company. But I do enjoy that. I get a lot of opportunity to meet people through my role in Rotary. So I am the incoming president of the Rotary Club of Philadelphia. So I am networking all over the place and meeting people. And, even if it's just traveling from one area of the city to another, or the county, or cross-district types of functions. And I love that. I love getting out and meeting new people.
Tell me how acute your senses are and how relevant identifying if a client or connection you are meeting with shares your core values is.
I'd say pretty intuitive, in terms of sitting across from someone and kind of getting that initial vibe, like, hey, I think this person vibes with me. I think just as we talked about before with consistency and how you approach someone else, I'm also looking at how someone is approaching me. And I see how they treat others. I see how they are in meetings. And I can usually tell, hey, this is a great, connection or fit, or I need to, I'm going to need to alter my approach with this person to be able to find that common ground. Because let's face it, right? Not all of us are each other's cups of tea. And so it's really important to find the value in the relationship, even though there might not be a complete, synchronicity in how you think that relationship is going to go.
How do you read people that are hard to read?
Oh, that's a good one. I might have to get back to you on that one. I think it's more, it comes in time, and I try to find those connection points. And so if I'm really struggling just to, get anything from them, at some point you might just have to say, okay, so this is just not going to be that kind of relationship. And so I'm just going to keep it, as simple as possible and, move on to another connection that is going to be more meaningful both ways.
How has the care of your family and your community impacted your business?
I think it has definitely increased my capacity for empathy. And, I have been finding in my own company, there are several of us that are starting to experience that sandwich generation, things that are going on with our own parents. Mm-hmm. And I think having community and being able to talk with others who are going through something similar really, really helps. And as I think that just gets down to just being human and having those conversations and communicating. And it's another connection point that you might have with clients. And part of our philosophy at our company is we care. And it comes through because we don't just care about the project that we're on with you, but we care about your business. We want you to be successful. And I feel I do that within Rotary too. I care about the causes that we support. I care about the people who are members in our community and how, I can connect them and make being a Rotarian fulfilling for them.
So you said that you got a lot of the connection skills from your mother. How often do you call her and run something by her in business or Rotary? Like a question.
Mostly personal, right? She doesn't necessarily understand my business, so in our business we talk about it all the time. It's like, yeah, try to explain it to a family member who's not, part of that world. But yeah, she has been a constant commandant, throughout my life. So yeah, I still reach out to her and say, hey, guess what's happening over here? Now more these days, right? If I could be just totally funny for a second. So as I'm aging, I'm finding myself doing just like silly things, right? And I'll call her, my mom's name is Joyce. And I'll call her and I'll say, Mom, I just had a Joycey moment, right? And we laugh over it, because, she's a tad older than I am. And as I'm aging and I'm finding some things that I'm doing that she does, it's kind of funny. So.
How important is it to laugh?
Oh my gosh, it's the most important thing. I have a sister who had multiple surgeries many years ago. She was a transplant patient, and we were in the hospital many times over the course of a year, and people would come by our rooms. We'd be in emergency rooms. We'd be, in her hospital room, and we would just be cutting up laughing. And people would come by and looking at us like, this is serious stuff going on. Like, why are you people laughing? And to us, that was the way that we relieved stress and reminded ourselves, we are not the disease. We are not the issue. We're not the surgery, right? We're a little more than that. And our way is to laugh.
Why should someone check out the Rotary Club?
So if you are a person who wants to give back to your community and or explore more what is happening in your community at the grassroots level and be of service, the Rotarian way is, and the mantra is service above self. If you want to give back in some way, whether that is with your heart, your hands, or your pocketbook, joining Rotary is absolutely the best way to go about that. The relationships that you can find, the fellowship that you have are wonderful, what I would call byproducts of being a member. And so, Rotary is, been around for many years. I want to say since 1910. The Rotary Club of Philadelphia just celebrated its 114th anniversary. We are the 19th oldest club in the world. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to connect with people and do good at the same time. And we also infuse a little bit of laughter in our group too. So it's fun.
What are your plans for Rotary as upcoming president?
So we just were talking the other night. We want to do a big celebration next year for our 115th anniversary, which coincides with I'm going to mispronounce this, I'm sure, the semi-sesquit. I'm close, right? But it's the 250th anniversary of the birth of the United States. And so Philadelphia obviously was at the heart of that back in 1776. So there's a lot that's going on here in the city next year between the 250th celebration, the World Cup coming here, and Rotary celebrating its 115th anniversary. So we're planning a big gala. So that'll be one area. I think the other thing is really more connection with the organizations that we support and making sure that our members really understand the good that we do in the community so that we can attract more members and do more good.
I love that. How is moving back and forth from California to Philadelphia these days? Is that pressuring or?
It's going to be, and as we're talking, I'm making plans to kind of head back to California and help parents and then come back here once a month. I think I have the stamina. I'm ready to go for it. I have a great board. I have a great, support network within my business too. So I'm ready for it. I'm up for the challenge. Let's rock this.
Get those frequent flyer reminders up.
There is that too, for sure.
Is there anything that's on your heart like lately, like this week, that you felt inspiring or you'd like to maybe talk about?
Yeah, I think I'm proud of myself. Okay, Barbara Walters, what are you doing to me over here? I'm proud of myself. I am so proud of the children that I've raised and the grandchildren that I have that are coming into this world. I'm proud that I came out here and I built a whole new life for myself. I am proud of the fact that the life that I've built allows me now to be able to go back and give to my parents and my family and help them out a little bit while still maintaining the connections here. And at the time, I think when I was in it and going through it, I knew I had it in me, and I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I had the faith that it would. And I have to say, it's even more beautiful than I ever would have imagined. So, and I did that, right? I did that because of the love of my family, my children. I did it because of my own tenacity. I did it by learning how to make mistakes and grow through them, admitting them, going through them, and just kept on. And I think I'm proud of my resilience, and I'm proud of all the things we talked about. I'm proud that I make connections with people. I'm proud that I am empathetic. I'm proud that I am a fully fledged, perfectly imperfect human being that's just trying to find her way in the world, and I'm proud of it.
Would you take yourself out for a beer?
Oh, I do it quite frequently, actually. That's one thing that I've loved here living in Philly. We have some great beer out here. So, yeah, I frequently take myself out for a beer. You ought to join me sometime.
Absolutely. How do you put yourself in a place where you can listen to that voice that filled your car when you first saw Philly's skyline?
Self-care is really important. And years ago, I mentioned earlier about my sister. Years ago, I was just starting my own business at the time. She was in and out of the hospital. I was raising young kids, right? It was just, life was a little chaotic. And it was the first time that I recognized that self-care is so important. And so I said, okay, great. I don't have a whole lot of money to go do some things that I would like to do. What can I do? Well, I love to read and love to take bubble baths. So I got up extra early every morning, filled the tub, got a book. The kids couldn't come in. They were asleep, right? I locked the bathroom door, and I had just 20 minutes of me time. And I think creating that space for the me time is what allows me to, listen to that voice. So, yeah.
Have you been able to find out ways to communicate to your loved ones that if they take care of your personal time as much as you do, that you will be a better person for them and for everyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's hard for folks who aren't in the mindset of self-care because, let's face it, many of us are people pleasers, right? And the shadow side of being the people pleaser is that you overextend yourself, right? And then you become resentful. And I think folks who are in that mindset, they don't know that it's important to just stop. It's okay to say no. Right? It's totally okay to say no and take care of yourself. What's that phrase about being on the airplane? Put your oxygen mask on yourself first, right? I heard this woman speak one time, and she gave a great example of it. And it was a cup or a mug in a saucer, and she was imitating pouring liquid into it. And she kept pouring in. She said, "Look," she says, "when you give, if your tank is empty, you can't give anymore, right? You're no good to anybody if your tank is empty. And so you have to keep filling your tank, and you find the way that fills your own tank." For me, at the beginning, that was my bubble baths and my reading. Now it's walks with my dog. It is, just calling up a girlfriend and, yucking it up on the phone for an hour, watching a silly rom-com, or just giggling over, an old classic comedy movie. Whatever that is, for you, when you find that allows you to, give back. And I think those around you, if they truly see it, they'll catch on too. But it's hard. It's hard for people.
Did you discover that when you were going through it and you were really suffering, that you started to take care of yourself, and that was the point at which things started to move in the direction at which now you're so proud of yourself?
Yeah, I think that connection is really important to make there, because when you take care of yourself, it opens you up to experiencing even more, right? It's an expansion. It's an opportunity for expansion. And the more confident that you are, the more kind of, grounded you are, the more you can actually take in, which then leads to more self-care and more. And so I think that it absolutely, when I let go of some of the, the weight and really started caring for myself and opening up, to what was around me, it absolutely opens doors.
What's next for you?
Ooh, so right now I am knee deep into getting a renter for my apartment, finding an apartment out in California, getting ready to, making my lists of what I'm shipping out there, what I'm keeping, what I'm doing, planning for the next Rotary year, and work-wise, we've got some great initiatives, coming up that we're looking into. So life is going to be very, very full. Plus planning all my, the fun summer events with my friends. So.
Incredible. Where can we find you? Where can we find Rotary Club?
Got it. So Rotary Club of Philadelphia, you can go to philadelphiarotary.org. My company, the name of my company is Blue Skies, so you can go to blueskiesllc.com. I'm on Instagram, Carrie.Sharpshair, you can find me. And yeah, I'm around.
When's the book coming out?
I don't know. Maybe you're going to have to help me figure out how to get that thing written. I don't know that anybody would want to read it, but, maybe my kids would one day. I don't know.
Carrie, thank you so much for coming.
Chris, it was an absolute pleasure. Appreciate it.